Here to talk about how to keep our police safe is Sheriff David Clarke of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He is going to be speaking at the Republican convention tomorrow night. Sheriff, thank you very much for that horrific day. I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of course
Any
I believe them
protests
when they say
over the
that.
deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you if what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know,
okay, Sheriff.
do I want to know?
With all due respect, do you know that this was because of that?
Yes, I do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this.
Yeah.
This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen, I'm
looking at 3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and I'm looking at 5 last year. And you trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you'll just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you had that message of civility
have a conversation
toward this
with you.
Hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
You don't know what my message is.
That's
what I want
they
to say
do.
to you is
these people preach vile and virtue
we'll be right
in the
back.
name
We're
of
going to go to break,
hate.
and we'll be right back. Are you going to let me talk?
Sheriff David Clarke is with us now. Sheriff, I know you've got something to say on this issue from what Mr. Loomis said yesterday. It was very strong stuff, accusing the president of having blood on his hands. What say you?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'll tell you what I've said from the beginning. President Obama has been the maestro. He has led the chorus and fanned the flames of anti-police sentiment that is sweeping this country, and that is now, in my estimation and in my view, this is directly related, this anti-police sentiment, to some of the attacks on law enforcement. Stu, this band I have over my badge, this is what law enforcement officers wear whenever one of us is killed in the line of duty. Dallas just buried the last 2 officers, and in a couple days after that, we take the band off. Now, all of a sudden in Baton Rouge, 3 more dead cops, and not only do I have to keep it on now for that, I have made a decision. I will not take this band off my badge. It represents the thin blue line. I will not take it off until the war on cops ends.
What did you want President Obama to have said? What would you want Hillary Clinton to say today when she addresses the NAACP?
Here's what I think would be a good start. They have to disavow any association with Black Lives Matter. They must denounce. And I'm talking about specifically none of this code language and none of this ambiguous language. They must denounce the anti-cop sentiment spewed by this hateful ideology, Black Lives Matter. Will it end there? It won't end there, but I'll tell you what, that would be a good start. Because like I said, these 2, when I say 2, Loretta Lynch, and there's others, but you know, they're at the highest offices of the land. And the Attorney General of the United States and the Department of Justice have acted with an almost hostility toward the American law enforcement officer and law enforcement agencies, and taking over these agencies in an attempt to federalize them. And I think that they need to again see the local law enforcement officer as an ally in the pursuit of justice, and that the officer is not the bad guy and the criminal is not the victim.
You were interviewed on CNN very recently, and as I read it, you were shut down. I think they cut your mic and almost chucked you off the set. What happened?
Well, they didn't shut my mic. Don Lemon there went to a break because he got flustered because I came with him with some stuff that he wasn't ready for. Look, I'm tired of the liberal mainstream media, not you, Stu, not Fox Business, the liberal mainstream media, the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, who are sympathizers of this hateful ideology, Black Lives Matter. And then all of a sudden when a cop is killed, they feign sympathy. I was not going to sit up there last night and have Don Lemon pander and talk about how horrific a day it was. And so I asked him some very pointed questions. And I said, Don, do you denounce the hateful anti-cop rhetoric coming out of Black Lives Matter? And he wouldn't answer the question. So as far as I'm concerned, that's tacit approval for it.
Sheriff David Clarke, I know you're speaking later on this week at the Republican convention. We appreciate you being on the show this morning, sir. Thank you.
Stuart, it's always my pleasure.